You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. This is Making Tracks. Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
That's not true. That's impossible.
You're listening to Making Tracks, and a very special episode. We join a Bad Batch Roundtable with Gwendoline Yeo. Gwendoline is the voice of Nala Se in the Clone Wars and now in the Bad Batch. Myself and some fellow websites and podcasts were lucky enough to sit down with Gwen and ask a few questions. So let's get straight into it. This is our Bad Batch Roundtable with Gwendoline Yeo.
Hello, this is James Maney from Star Wars Newsnet. Nice to see you and get a chance to talk. I wanted to ask you, we've had the opportunity to speak with many Star Wars voice actors in the past, and I was curious how Bad Batch might be different and how much you know about the scripts and stories ahead of time before you record the lines. And just a quick one, in your opinion, is it Kaminoans or Kaminoans?
Oh my gosh, I don't want to get bad fan mail. I say Kaminoans. That's how Dave Filoni pronounces it.
Oh, okay.
He changed his mind. I don't know, but I say Kaminoans. It could be tomato. But I pronounce it Kaminoans. But I don't want a Wookiee to show up at my door and kill me. So I say Kaminoans. Gotcha. So it was sort of a three-parter question, right? Why the Bad Batch? And when there's so many other cool things in the Star Wars universe. Was that your first question?
Well, yeah, just why is it different? Like, how much do you know about the scripts and everything ahead of time as compared maybe to other projects you've worked on?
In the Star Wars universe or in general?
Both, actually. Yeah, sure.
I would say, with Clone Wars, it was, I had played Nala Se for so long and other characters as well. But she, had created this army. So she was definitely sort of internally intense, but pretty cold. So I would say that in terms of the overall arc and how she would be, the team, Jennifer Corbett and Dave Filoni and Brad Rao and the rest of the team, they did come to me and say, hey, we would love, for you to do Nala Se, but here's the twist, is that we see more of a maternal side to her, more of a vulnerability to her, which for me was, but also really really cool. And so, in terms of the actual scripts, coming in, absolutely not. Like we would get them sort of week to week, but in terms of the overall sense of what her arc would be, I knew that was the way it was going to go. But they pretty much do keep, it's like breaking into the Pentagon, trying to get scripts. I don't even trust me with the script. No, I do. But so yeah, I think it's very different playing, when dealing with Star Wars universe, everyone is so meticulous. And I think now with action movies and things exploding and all of that, people seem to forget story, really good storytelling and really good character development. But some of the best series, even Breaking Bad, it's out of left field, but, what pushes the story forward. And I think that, down to George Lucas, who is meticulous and oversees these things, is incredible. So I think when you're dealing with such high level people who are so meticulous about what they do, it's just such a pleasure. So I treat it like I'm shooting a movie usually, like I'm doing it in extreme close up, because the material is just that good. So with the Bad Batch in particular, you know, we sort of had a sense of how many episodes there would be. You know, I knew I'd be working with Dee Baker as a good friend, Bob Bergen's a good friend, and Michelle was amazing, who I also had just met. So it was, I mean, you just don't say no to Star Wars. You can reschedule, you can work around schedules, but you kind of don't say no. So.
Yeah, great answer. Yeah, I like that a lot. And thanks for answering that long question of the Kaminoan pronunciation.
No, now I want to know. Now I'm totally nerding out. I'm like, Kaminoan. Yeah, Kaminoan. I don't know. It's just so a lot of vowels. I say Kaminoan. So.
Gotcha.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, a Star Wars fan, Fantha Tracks fan.
I have the next question, Trisha Barr from Fangirl Blog and Fangirl's Going Rogue podcast. And speaking of Kaminoans, how does the physicality of the character play into your vocal performance? And you've also played a Claudite and a Gungan previously. Maybe you can tell us how those different things shake it up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love you for asking. I think when I first saw a picture of her with the lines, I mean, a lot of, and I'm sure you've heard this from other voice actors, and I do definitely do both on camera and VO and all that. But I don't with VO. I am in a stance. There is a full body, and some more than others. And I think with Nala Se, just her being so tall and just over the little arms and her little lips, I can't. It sounds ridiculous, but. I can't explain it, but there was just an immediate stoicism and erect spine, the little lips, and an internal sense. And I spoke to Dave about it in terms of, how much regality, how much power. And so at first I started talking like this, sort of without moving her lips at all, because it's like, it's almost like she was fully Botoxed. And it's like, how do you absolutely come out with something like this? And I thought maybe too stereotypical if she had a British accent, and maybe not. I'm just kidding. And then so I sort of backed off, and we sort of found this formality. And then as I was doing it, I started doing this with my hand. So it's just sort of like, listen, this is how the phrasing started to change. So it very much is, was so much part of that vocal performance, that it was all the physical led to the verbal of it. So thank you for asking that. With the Gungans, I'm from Singapore originally. So when I first came here, you talk like this la, yeah la, no la. So Dave was like making fun of me, and he was like, not making fun of me, but he was saying, hey, you're from Singapore, right? I was like, yeah. He's like, give me a little taste. And so, listen, I know Gungans might not be the big fan favorite, but, I love myself some Gungan action. And so with the floppy ears, and so, yeah, la, so I talk like from Singapore, la. So that's why she was like, Misa, you so things that I come here. And so I think I thought about the floppy ears and sort of like the Singapore way, la, like kind of like more of like a relaxed way of speaking, like kind of like, what's up? And don't quote me on that, but kind of that was sort of a more of an innocence. So I had big eyes sort of with that, and do not make any Asian jokes. Only I can make that joke. So, anyways, with Kato Para City, I think it was more neck as a bounty hunter, just sort of listen. It was just, I can't explain it. It was just very neck-like, very slithery. And it's like, listen, I believe that. So I don't know. I just you just instinctively find it. And then sometimes the directors will, like with Dave and Jen and Brad, like they'll be your bullies in a way, and they might push you a little bit, and then your body just kind of like follows suit, or vice versa. Does that answer your question?
Hi, I'm George Bate with Star Wars Holocron. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. Hi. My question kind of spawns from the last two questions in regards to what you're talking about with your performance as Nala Se. I'm curious how you approach the character in the Bad Batch compared to the Clone Wars, where she kind of felt more like an ominous, villainous presence as opposed to the kind of maternal-esque figure we're seeing now.
Yeah, I would say it's interesting you said ominous and villainous. I mean, it's so interesting how every audience, would take her when she was so internal, but And I love that that's what you got from her, that less is so much more. I think that's what we had spoken about. I don't know if that's, but I don't think that was like thrown out the window per se in terms of her stoicism or power. I think there's an additive or just sort of like a slight opening into her really investing and really caring about what she created. So whether that's interpreted as protective or territorial or maternal, I think, that's up for the audience to decide. But all those words kind of came through my head. I think there was some trepidation playing that, because as a Kaminoan, or a Kaminoan, as James insists it goes, just kidding, that I wanted to be able to still stay within the Kaminoan way of species. Like, you can't tell me be like, listen, you can't get off species. So literally we did multiple takes, we were talking about it, and it was literally like 2 degrees to the right and 2 degrees to the left. And, even in skateboarding or pool or snowboarding or what have you, or gymnastics, even the slightest shift can make a huge difference. So literally, I think it was like, and so I'm such a nerd. It's like, and sort of the back and forth. And so we tried different things. They plugged in different things. The animators came back, we looked at different ways. So, but really the performance was very, 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 very internal. And I could feel that tensity, because you can't lose that power and stoicism and, that kind of, how would you define ominous? What do you mean by ominous?
Maybe like imposing or kind of, like you said, even with those subtleties, it seems like little changes in your performance really come through. Yeah. And you see this like protective angle that I feel as if we didn't really get exposed to previously. So no, I thought that was really cool. Thank you.
No, thanks. And I think it helps to be 80 feet tall, however tall she is, in terms of just being ominous. I don't know. But yeah, I think with her, it's really scary when people are that reined in.
Hi, this is Guy Henry, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks. Enjoy.
James Burns from GRI News here. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us, Gwendoline. You've done so much in your career. I mean, you've been in so many TV shows, not just as a voice actor, but as an actress in your own right. So where does Star Wars fit into this for you? What does Star Wars mean to you?
Oh, gosh. I mean, look, I grew up a very sort of ugly duckling, not sort of lonely kid, and I think that for me, my imagination was everything, much like a lot of creatives, and I'm sure all of you as well. You weirdos. We're one. And so I just remember, little Bo Peep on my sheets and having conversations with her, talking to my speak and spell. And I remember seeing these movies and, Jabba the Hutt. And I was like, that's so cool. And, these characters that came alive in front of me, and Princess Leia, and her sort of feminist qualities, but also warrior spirit. And it just gave me sort of a sense of perhaps what could be, So I never really thought that I would really amount to anything, to be quite honest. As a kid, I just thought,
Well, you proved them wrong.
Oh, thanks. I just, thank you. And when I've spoken to kids, I had a chance to I did a clothing line. I went to Appalachian, Kentucky, and I went to this high school that had the proceeds went to the poorest high school there. And, they had gone through so much, and not even compared to sort of what I'd gone through. So please bear with me. But when I first moved here, I talked like this lah. And so people were like, you freak. And I would stand up and went, the answer is 12. And people thought I was an idiot. And so I started talking like this because that's how I would sound less crazy. And the Valley girls would tease me. So I started talking like I was a Valley girl. And I was like, listen. And through all of this sort of bullying, I started learning to be a chameleon. And through all of this, my voiceover career started to build, right? And you know, simultaneously doing pageants and doing TV and all of that. But what I said to these kids was, just because you've gone through pain, some of that pain, that can be your biggest moneymaker. And you could just see it on their faces. And I never knew, I never knew that I would have Star Wars associated on my resume. I never thought that I would be on IMDb or that I'd be sitting here with you guys. So, yeah, I'm just grateful every day for it. I really am.
Thank you.
Peaceful, but yeah, true.
All right. So I'm Charlotte. I'm from the Sky Talkers podcast. And thank you so much for answering our questions here. And I was wondering, the Bad Batch feels like it's given us a peek behind the curtain with the Kaminoans. And I was wondering if you were surprised by the direction that it has taken with all this new stuff that we're learning about the Kaminoans.
Yeah. I mean, I think the surprise was when they first approached me, when they sort of said, this is sort of pitched the storyline. I mean, I didn't know, you know, you do a gig and you move on, you know, you do a gig, you move on. I mean, I've just been so blessed, you know, with Star Wars to have been sort of in their family for a while, but you never take anything for granted. And so when they, I was beautifully surprised when they said, hey, here's Nala Se and here's what we're thinking. So I think at the top of the show, as it were, sort of knowing kind of where her arc would go didn't give me everything, but I had a sense of where she was headed, was really, really exciting. So yeah, I think being able to play her and sort of reveal and you know, I've been you sit with a character for so long and now they're giving you more layers to play is a real pleasure. So it was a surprise in terms of the original pitch. And I think, and then these reveals like in 9 and in 14, I think, you know, you sort of go, okay, all right. So, you know, let's see where the story goes. But it's been really cool to be able to sort of dial her in a different way, you know? And what I will say too, is it's cool, you know, that it's not like no one know, like, you know, it's that I'm not playing an Asian woman. I'm playing a Kaminoan, you know. I'm played a bounty hunter of Cato Pero City. I played a Gungan that was not ethnicity defined. So sometimes I do enjoy playing ethnicity defined. Sometimes I don't. But to have the just sort of the palette that they've given me has been really, really cool.
Hi, this is John Morton from The Empire Strikes Back, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Hi, I'm Michael Cohen from Rebel Cells, the Star Wars animation podcast. Thank you so much for answering our questions.
Sure.
I've got it's kind of a funny one here. One of my co-hosts came with it for me. This is a question for you. We can't really know like what Nala Se wants for Omega, but for you personally, what would you want to see her fate be like ultimately? So, sort of, you know, happy ending. What sort of a future do you see for the character of Omega in your heart?
Oh gosh, I would assume that happy ending is not an Asian joke. I forgive you for that. Just kidding. No one else is laughing. That's fine. I will laugh at my own joke. Oh gosh. I mean, I want to be very careful. Completely aside from any sort of, producerial direction. I do believe that there's two answers to that. I think, part of me feels that life is hard enough. And I just want people who watch the Star Wars series, in terms of when I watched it, is to feel hope, to feel like there is a sense, there's a line in the sand about justice and injustice, to stand up for yourself, to fight for yourself. Sometimes you can be lonely, but you just have to stick to your Constitution, and you want things to have a happy ending. You want someone to have that bond. On the other side of it, I would say, in real life, for people who have been through a lot of pain or are just interested in what true life can reflect. And I think that's the tapestry and nuance of Star Wars and Lucas characters, is that no one is one thing, and that we all struggle to be good, but can do bad things. We can be bad and do good things. We can be good and do bad things. And I don't think, I think two things can exist simultaneously at one time. So, we'll have to see how the story goes. But, I do believe that showing that that we're human and that no one has to be perfect and to not be labeled, I think is very important. I mean, someone could say, hey, you're an Asian, but I'm not, right? But that's the perception, because sometimes I have to be to carry myself a certain way. And to know that I cry over XYZ, or that I've been hurt, or what have you. So I think that's why the brilliance of George Lucas and his team is that you're able to really see real life, and hopefully it makes other people feel less alone and make their imagination sparkle.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
On Saturday the 31st of July, SWOOP GP takes place in Los Angeles. We had a catch-up with one of the minds behind the event, Young Lee. We talked all about the inspiration for the event, what takes place, what it's all about. So have a listen. Chat I had earlier this week with Young Lee from SWOOP GP. Today we're joined by Young Lee, one of the founders of SWOOP GP. It's a Star Wars themed racing event happening in Los Angeles on Saturday the 31st of July. Young, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So Star Wars and motorbikes, where did the idea for SWOOP GP come from?
Well, as a Star Wars fan, it came from my childhood, my years of being a Star Wars fan, just loving it throughout my childhood and adulthood, and then later my love for two wheels and racing. So it's really an idea combining those two passions, and it came from really this COVID-19 pandemic.
Could you explain that in a little bit more depth?
Well, I'm old enough to have seen Star Wars in the theaters in 1977, and I was in elementary school. The experience was burned into my brain, and I've been a fan ever since. And the level of my passion for Star Wars certainly has fluctuated over the years, but definitely increased when the Clone Wars came out, then Rebels, the toy lines improved, and been keeping an eye on what's been happening in 3D printing, cosplay, and armor builds. And of course, also the more recent stuff with The Mandalorian and now The Bad Batch and upcoming shows. It's really an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan. And the motorcycle stuff. Since 2009, I've run a motorcycle mini-moto racing organization. And in 2013, we started a riding school for both kids and adults who ride big bikes and little bikes. And then with COVID-19, we couldn't have a season last year. And then we quickly discovered in 2021 that we would also not be able to have a normal championship sprint racing series. So when I realized that wasn't happening, we already booked the dates with the track at the beginning of the year, as we always do. So I thought, okay, we have these dates in July. Why don't we do something fun and have a Star Wars themed event? So I ran it by some friends, and some of them didn't think I was crazy. And that's basically all I needed. I then started talking with friends and companies, motorcycle industry people, and some Star Wars people, in the community. And people were responding positively for the most part. And so I kept pushing on. We formed a team. After sponsors, partners, months later, work, little sleep. We're now here a week away from the event for our first annual SWOOP GP.
Couple of things. Where does the event take place? And what have you learnt so far from your experiences? And what challenges have there been?
Oh, there haven't been any challenges. I'm kidding. The event is located at Willow Springs International Raceway in Rosamond, California. It's about 2.5 hours northeast of Los Angeles, really about 2 hours, depending on how you drive. And it's actually one of the oldest racetracks still in existence, in use in the United States. It's also a historical point of interest and has history with many Hollywood celebrity types from Steve McQueen, Paul Newman, Keanu Reeves, Tom Cruise, and probably most important to Star Wars fans, George Lucas. In fact, he made one of his earliest student films at Willow Springs. It's called 1:42.08. It's actually a lap time around the track. And, it's available to view or Google it on YouTube or, and I know George Lucas has been back for a couple of other things like celebrity events. And I think it has had an impact on barren deserts and otherworldly, scenarios, right? So that's one of the selling points of our event, that, that it has a historical tie and that it's, it looks like Tatooine. So some of the challenges, well, the fact that it is in the California desert, that's also one of the challenges. Also, we have been experiencing a heat wave, which hasn't been helping. And the fact that it's also our first annual, all these different factors are making it challenging. Like I said earlier, we didn't plan to have this event in the summertime. It was just, we made do with the events that we had. The good thing is there are folks who work at Willow Springs who are also Star Wars fans, and they love the idea. And they said, if we have a, decently successful first annual, that they will give us some better months for next year, possibly in the springtime or definitely in the cooler months. So I'm happy about that. One challenge that's been a bit of a surprise has been communication in general. I think post-COVID and getting back to normal has something to do with it. Talking with some different organizations, including some of the charities, they've said, when I did reach out to them, they weren't ready to start hosting events. Their teams, are all working from home. So our event, at least when we first started pitching it, was early for some. So they weren't willing to commit. And even more recently, with things opening up more, now our event has had competition from other types of events, higher profile events and established events. It was kind of, we had to time it just right. And thankfully we did with some, and with others, not so much. So communication has been challenging, just getting a call back or an email back, so I think some are just not ready to return. And with the others, they've been swamped trying to decide where they're going to go. Also, I've been learning a lot about the various costume groups and the subgroups within the Star Wars fandom, with all the various complexities, from gatekeepers to local politics, club politics, individual agendas, which is a doozy in some cases, but that's another story. As well as the simple fact that, a lot of the fellow nerds are also fellow introverts, as well as, busy with life and work and family and stuff. One of the biggest challenges also is the fact that this is our inaugural event. So a lot of people haven't been sure what it is, or even with our efforts in letting people know what it is, the fact that it's something new and different. And then the other factors that I mentioned just, compound the challenge. So some got it right away, and some, like I said, had questions. We're fortunate and very grateful that our partners and sponsors who did get the vision see the fun and great potential that SWOOP GP offers. Maybe the final thing to mention here about challenges is getting people to register for the event. With all the things I mentioned, the fact that we're still in our heat wave, and thankfully it looks like the heat wave is going away just in time for our event, but it certainly has scared people off. We've reached temperatures of 110 degrees Celsius and even higher. I was there at the track just last week doing some preparation, and it got 113 was what it was Celsius both days. So that has certainly kept some people away. But ticket sales, thankfully, are gradually increasing, and hopefully this last week they will increase further, because that will also help benefit the charities.
I'm Anthony Daniels, and you are listening to Fantha Tracks. Well done.
So what are the big attractions for your inaugural SWOOP GP event?
That's easy. Lauren Mary Kim. So she's been great since first contact. For those who may not know, she's the badass stunt woman who played the armorer on The Mandalorian. She's the one who beat up all the stormtroopers in season 1. And she did the fight scene against Darth Maul as Ahsoka Tano. She did the motion capture, worked with Ray Park in the Clone Wars. She's also stunt doubled for Fennec Shand and Koska Reeves in The Mandalorian. And she's just been amazing. She'll be doing saber training with 2 separate saber training groups at SWOOP GP. She'll be signing autographs. This is for kids of all ages. When I first talked to her, she got really excited to be able to work with kids. And I thought about it. I'm like, okay, well, there's going to be people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So I said, kids of all ages. And then she smiled and said, yeah. So she's been so supportive of the project since I first reached out to her. And so I sometimes joke that this should be called the Lauren Mary Kim GP. She's gotten fans excited about the event. And, some even to the point where, they've expressed some concern that she might be too rough on them. And I told them not to worry and to come out and have fun. And then she's a very nice, very nice person. We also have Super 73, an electric bike lifestyle company. If you don't know what Super 73s are, go to super73.com. They're electric bicycles, but they are the leader in their space, and they're killing it. But before I even knew of Super 73, I knew of one of their co-founders, Michael Canavo. He has a YouTube channel called Rexing Around. And I was, once we decided we're doing this event, I was in sponge mode. So I just started listening to all the podcasts. I'd watch YouTube podcasts, listen to all this new music. Samuel Kim, I'm aware of him. I've reached out to him, no response. Michael has a YouTube channel called Rexing Around. If you haven't checked out Rexing Around, look it up. So I found out about Rexing Around before I even knew about the Super 73s. And I reached out to him just, as a Star Wars fan. And when I found out that he also had a bike company, I just thought, okay, it's even more of a perfect fit to have them involved. So I reached out to him, and I have to say he and his team have been incredible, super supportive and understanding about the vision. They get the vision. And as a huge Star Wars fan, he got it right away. And the other sponsors as well. But Super 73 on another level, because they've said early on, we're going to be a part of this event. They've stuck by their word. They've been active on social media. And, when they say they joined the fight, they're joining the fight, and their actions have been proving it. So when others have been concerned or scared off by the fact that it's our first annual, the SWOOP GP team and I are so grateful that people will stick by their word. They will be offering demo rides at the event with their great bikes. And they're also donating a brand new Super 73 for the raffle to raise money for the charities that we have involved. So they truly have been super, or swooper. I've invented a new word called swooper. So SWOOP GP was going to be and always will be a fundraising event for charities. So I hope that people consider that an attraction. This year, it's Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Los Angeles. That comes by recommendation of a friend who is an active Big Brother, and also Make-A-Wish, Northeastern and Central California and Northern Nevada. I had to get that right because Make-A-Wish Foundation has all these regional groups. And since it's a regional group that's supporting the event, I have to mention their name properly. So both organizations do great work for kids, and that's why we decided to have them out for this year. The other attractions for the event are people who are in their respective spaces within the Star Wars community that I'm not going to mention their names, but for people who are coming, there are notable people coming, and they are in for a treat. So that's all I'll say about some of the unmentionable attractions. And besides the saber training with Lauren Kim, our own versions of Blue and Green Milk, themed music. We have a DJ for the event, and the Galaxy themed music that's going to be playing as soon as the gates open at 10 a.m. We're also going to have our own version of a mix, which we're calling either the SWOOP GP mix or the Bounty mix. It's the flavored popcorn, our own formula, and it's been taste tested and approved by some harsh critics. And obviously, we're going to have photo stations from some pro shooters that are in the Star Wars community, some costume characters, and it's just going to be basically come out and play Star Wars with us. We're also going to have racing, the racing element. So for those who just want to, be entertained and watch the racing, that's an attraction that we'll have for people to witness live. So that should be fun.
I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson, and you are following Fantha Tracks.
You mentioned that you'll have better and cooler dates for future SWOOP GP events. So I assume you'll be running more events. And what's your ideal vision ultimately for SWOOP GP?
Yes. My hope is that this is episode 1 of SWOOP GP. We're, giving it our best effort, like George Lucas did with the original Star Wars in 1977. There have been some challenges and resistance by some people, but like George, we've been persistent, and hopefully it's well received by the fans, and we will be able to come through this and have another event, do episode 2, 3, 4, 5, as many as possible. The idea from the beginning has always been to make this a fun and unique annual event for the fans, to have something outdoors in an epic environment, in kind of an authentic setting to the Star Wars world, versus a convention center. I put on our Instagram, one of our team members works for Burning Man, and you see some really phenomenal and epic photos and videos from Burning Man. And part of that is the simple fact that, guess what? It's in the California desert, and people, just like movies and photographers, and aside from CG now, to have those great scenes, the filmmakers, the great ones, they will go to an exotic location to get this stuff. Lawrence Arabia wasn't done on a Burbank studio. I hope that's true, but I'm pretty sure that there's some real footage where they're in the desert. To answer this more simply, I've been kind of rambling. Like I said, this one is for the fans. SWOOP GP is for the fans, and for all ages, of all eras. It's all inclusive. It's for so many aspects of the fandom, with cosplay, the movies, of course, actors, creatives, whether it's music or artists, musicians, toys, hobbies, comics, basically everything that Star Wars is and has become. What makes our event unique, besides being outdoors and the epic settings, is that, like I said, it has the element of racing. It has historic relevance and connection with being part of George Lucas's past. And, racing also is part of Star Wars. I think there's some authentic connections, and these aren't reaches. These are legitimate connections. And so I hope that's attractive to fans. I hope we get another chance to do SWOOP GP year after year, and to do a lot of good with the fandom and for charities. And my ideal vision is that it grows each year and brings everyone together out of the Star Wars community and fandom, and to create unforgettable experiences that inspire, bring hope, and the Force to all.
Well, it sounds fantastic. We're all excited for it. Best of luck, Young. Hope everything goes really well, and all the very best to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark. I hope we're able to meet someday, either at a SWOOP event or something else.
Me too.
Because I will be a Star Wars fan until the day I die, which is hopefully, I have a few more years in me. We'll see if this event doesn't kill me.
Thanks for listening to Making Tracks. If you want to be a part of the action and stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit fanthatracks.com or check out the free Fantha Tracks app through the App Store to follow us on your mobile device. You can reach out to us and send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@fanthatracks.com. Comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds at Fantha Tracks, and be sure to subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Fantha Tracks intro, Adam O'Brien for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Remember, tune into our weekly Fantha Tracks news show, Good Morning Tatooine, live Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on Facebook and YouTube, and we'll see you all very soon.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's another episode of Making Tracks.